Hello and welcome back. Today we will begin a self-portrait project, or more specifically, we'll begin to prepare to create a self-portrait. The inspiration for our self-portrait will be the artist Chuck Close. You can see him here working on a self-portrait. Before we jump into learning about Chuck Close, or a little bit about him, we'll start today, but we'll learn more about him as we go along with the project. I want to show you self-portraits from other artists. Now, of course, here are a bunch of self-portraits from various artists, and we'll see more of these, but I just want to show you a few from artists you may be familiar with, including the artist Claude Monet. Here are two self-portraits by that Impressionism, the father of Impressionism. Here's Frida Kahlo painting a self-portrait, and then there's a picture of the completed self-portrait that you can see her there painting. Here are a number of self-portraits by the artist Vincent van Gogh. And that's interesting because look on this self-portrait by the American illustrator Norman Rockwell. On his easel, you can see on his picture, he's got some inspiration there, and one of those is Van Gogh. He's also got a Rembrandt, which I'll show you in just a moment. Here's Andy Warhol, and you may recognize this from a similar series of prints that we have in the art classroom. Andy Warhol was a famous pop artist. Here's Rembrandt. He was one of the artists that you can see. It's a different portrait of him there as inspiration on Norman Rockwell's. Rembrandt was famous for his self-portraits and his use of light and dark. You can see etching and then a painting there. Here is an artist you know from the Mona Lisa, two self-portraits by the artist Leonardo da Vinci. Now here are two self-portraits. One is for this project and one was from when I was in college. Not a famous artist, but an artist you know, Miss Tweeden, your art teacher. Now Chuck Close is a famous American artist that's inspiring our project. I'm going to show you some of his work, but we'll learn more about him as we go along in the project. Chuck Close was famous. He started off in the 60s, famous for his photorealistic, part of the photorealism movement, photorealistic paintings. That is a painting that he created, a self-portrait, but it looks like a photo. Some people say that instead of being a picture of a person, they're really a picture of a photograph. Here's another example, and you can see the scale, how large these are. Here's another, and actually I believe that is a photograph. And here you can see how Chuck Close's style changed over the years. And again, we'll talk more about that. Here's a picture of Chuck Close taking a photograph of Oprah Winfrey. And this is to remind me to tell you that in addition to doing some practice drawing today, I'm going to be taking your photo for us to use for your self-portrait. When you're thinking about the expression on your face, you can smile, but you want to be mindful about or careful about teeth. Teeth can be tricky in a portrait. So I would recommend that if you're going to smile, a subtle Mona Lisa smile. Knowing that I'm going to take your photograph, let's look back at these portraits and you'll see that often the expressions on people's faces, I would say that's like a Mona Lisa smile on the one on the right, but usually it's a calm face. And generally because the artist is looking in a mirror to paint themselves. And so I think it's that all these were, Vincent van Gogh was painting these from looking in a mirror. And so you wouldn't sit there holding a smiling face. So when you look at these portraits, it might inform the kind of expression that you would like to have on your face for your photograph that you're going to be creating a photorealistic copy of, which again, we'll talk more about. I just wanted to give a note to think about the expression that you want to have, and I recommend a Mona Lisa smile. Now, let's talk about value and the pencil shading exercises that we're going to do today to prepare for our pencil shaded photorealistic self-portraits. Okay, we will be working with value, the lightness or darkness of a color, and we'll just be working with graphite pencil, so just value. You can see here 3 different value scales showing different ways to create value, hatching, cross-hatching, and then blending. We're going to be working a lot with blending. Before you do the pencil shading exercise that I have for you, I want you to create a value scale in your sketchbook with at least 5 values. You could say 6, but one of them is just the white of the paper. I did a long rectangle. I drew it in half and then did 2 lines on each side, giving 6 little compartments. One's going to be white, just the white of the paper, so that one will be really easy. I'm starting here with the darkest square. That's hatching. Now that's cross hatching, but I'm actually also ultimately going to be blending. Cross hatching going over. This is the darkest value. I'm going to jump into fast forward here. So on this darkest square, you want to give the deepest, darkest coating of graphite that you can. And that's my darkest value. This next one, I want to be not quite as dark, but pretty dark because I've got to get 3 other variations. Now, here's a good tip. Instead of using my finger to blend, I don't want the cross-hatching to show. I want it to be a smooth area of value. Your finger actually has oils in it, and you don't want that. It can make your picture smudgy. So we'll have paper towels that we can use to smooth out those pencil lines so we get a smooth area value without using our fingers. Also helps keep your finger tidy. And you'll see that I use the little bit of residue that's on the paper towel when I'm creating my lightest value. I don't even color the last one. I go to the dark and I use a little bit of the dark graphite and then make my lightest value without even touching the pencil to the paper. Now I have my 6 values. I'm going to get those numbered. And this you don't have to do. I'm doing here a value study of a sphere. This I'm just got in fast forward so you can see. You don't have to create this because we cover this in the pencil shading exercise, which I'm going to show you. But I thought it might be interesting for you just to see that you use value to create the illusion of form, the 3-dimensional quality of something. So blending those values, having dark shadow areas and lights and highlights, even have some reflected light there, gives the illusion of form. And that's where the pencil shading exercise comes in. After you've created those 5 values, that little value scale in your sketchbook, you're going to be ready to get a pencil shading exercise. I used to keep these in the sketchbooks, but I have it separate now. The exercise is the same, it's just on a separate piece of paper. I'm going to read the instructions to you as you can watch me starting on this first square. Pencil shading exercise. Graduated tone, that's like the gradual fade from light to dark. Graduated tone can be used to create the illusion of space and form in a drawing. It is a very useful skill to develop. Start by shading the area you wish to be dark and slowly build up the tone. As you work toward the light, gradually ease the pressure on your pencil until you can no longer see it. You then patiently repeat this process, building a depth to the shading and trying to keep the tonal changes as smooth as possible until you achieve the intensity of tone that you desire. So you can see me building up my darks, lightening up that pressure as I get to the lighter areas. You'll also see me using my paper towel to blend those tones. All right, guys, and I'm jumping here and fast forward so that you don't have to wait for the entire time. I'm talking about not using your finger because of the oils that are in your hand. It's what creates fingerprints, but we don't want our paper to get smudgy. And we also want to be able to erase. You'll see how I do that. So I'm talking about using a paper towel, which I've already talked about. Smoothing that out, which helps give me that lightest tones. I don't even have to use my pencil to create those. You can also draw with your eraser. I'm going to pull that lightest area back out using my eraser so that I have that smooth transition and then bringing back some of those darks that I've lost. In this pencil shading exercise, they get progressively harder as they go. So start at the top and move your way down the paper. And you don't have to finish this today. This is good practice for us to get ready for our portraits. Notice that you can see, like on the example, it's got a little drop shadow around it. I'm only doing that interior space. You may even notice on your printout that I had them printed in color, even though it's black and white, because printing it in color gave a greater, smoother transition from dark to light. So you'll see there's like kind of a taupe tan backdrop. You're just doing that interior shape. So on this one where it's like split in half and it's got those 2 triangles, I'm just drawing the 2 triangle parts. You don't have to do the little border. Assessment. Check yourself. Do you have at least 3 values, a dark, a medium, and a light? Do you have smooth transitions? Is it smooth between that dark, medium, and light? And is it accurate? If it's a triangle, like that one that's split diagonally in half, is it a sphere or a circle or a square? We're looking for value, smooth transitions, and accuracy. And here I'm talking about some portraits. There's a profile one. You'll have the option to have your photo made face on, or if you want to do from the side, that's fine as well. All right, I'm going to finish up this pencil shading exercise and fast forward. We can take any questions and then we'll be ready to go get started.